It is time for us now to move on to our college football best bets. We've only done this once with the Big Ragoo, and he went 2-0-1. Nary a loss on his board in his first best bets video with me. So let's keep that streak going, Doc, and let's get right to work. Big Ragoo has picked out 5 games that he is betting, while I have 2. I'm going to bookend this segment. So I have the first game and I have the last game. My first game, before it jumps out on the board, is something that happened to me 2 weeks ago. I wanted to include a game that wasn't on Saturday in my best bets, but I thought, no, let's just wait for the day of. By the time the day of came, the line had moved in the direction that I had bet, and it was a worse line, and it's still cashed, and it wasn't part of my best bets video. So I start with Friday action. 7:30 p.m. Eastern, Florida Atlantic Owls 3-4, 2-1 in the American at Charlotte 49ers 2-5, 1-2 in the American, Jerry Richardson Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I think at this point that everybody knows here that I think Biff Poggi is going to change everything in Charlotte. I believe in him very much. And this defense is really good. And they had guys transfer over from Power 5 schools to play for Biff. And this school and this team is going to get better and better and better. Now, if I had just taken them on the money line as well last week, it would have been a hugely profitable week. They covered as 6.5 or 6-point dogs at East Carolina. Look, I know East Carolina's trash, but you have to start somewhere. And Charlotte got their first win against FBS competition, and I think that they play very well here down the stretch, or as well as they're capable of playing. Let's get into the line history here. This is Friday night action. So when Bobano is here on Friday, we'll talk about this spot, but I will have already moved on it. This opened up with Charlotte as 5.5-point dogs. They're now 4-point dogs. We've had a 1.5 move towards them. From a total standpoint here, it's low. It's at 41, and Charlotte's been playing very low-scoring games. It's opened up at 42, and it dropped to 41. They're coming off that 10-7 victory at East Carolina. We go over to the cash flow for the Friday nighter. On the total, it's interesting because you have 21% of the tickets on the over and 38% of the cash. So you do have some bigger bets on the over, but this total has dropped a point. From the spread situation here, you have 93% of the tickets and 96% of the cash on Florida Atlantic. An enormous amount of money is on Florida Atlantic. And yet the book said, oh, you like FAU? Well, here, we'll drop it 1.5. We want all of your Florida Atlantic cash. Here we go. Florida Atlantic comes in off a 36-10 loss at home to UTSA's 2.5-point dogs. So Daniel Richardson is taking over at quarterback for Casey Thompson. Casey Thompson suffered the torn ACL. Richardson is okay, but, same amount of TDs as picks. I mean, it's not good. Now, against South Florida, where they put up 56 points, he threw for 382 yards and 3 touchdowns. Against UTSA, he finished with 142 yards and 2 interceptions. And it's because it's easy against South Florida. It's tough against a good defense, and Charlotte has a good defense. Florida Atlantic also has lost outright in 5 of their last 6 road games as a favorite. As a favorite, they've lost outright in 5 of their last 6 road games. Charlotte comes in off their first win against FBS competition this year. 10-7 victory, East Carolina, 6.5-point dogs. You could say, look, they're going to come back to earth or anything. No, it's not that. I mean, they won. They scored 10 points. They won. All that changes is the feeling in the room. These guys are going to start believing in Biff and start believing in each other. Jalen Jones, also 11-17 for 144 yards, but he ran 24 times for 120 yards and a touchdown. The 49ers are so good against the pass. 32nd in EPA against the pass. We talked already about the Power 5 transfers. Daniel Richardson is going to try to beat you through the air, and Charlotte will stop that from happening. All this money on Florida Atlantic. All this money, and the line's moved a point and a half to Charlotte. Give me the Charlotte 49ers at +4. Take it away for us here, Doc. What do you think of my first spot on the board? Charlotte 49ers at home, Jerry Richardson Stadium in Charlotte.
I think it was a great breakdown, number one. Charlotte's defense is for real. I mean, up and down the board they played. They played the Gators. They played Navy. They played, weak teams. They played strong teams. And each one of those games, the numbers, even though they haven't come out on the top side of the scoreboard, they've had some defensive wins on the field against, some quality opponents. And FIU, who's averaging about 24 points a game. FIU is kind of a school that like coaches come back to kind of resurrect their careers. We've seen it. I mean, Schnellenberger, he's an OG. In Miami folklore. The guy did what he did down in Miami, kind of put them back on the map. Then you had Lane Kiffin that came over there. Now they got Tom Herman. So they draw the quality coaches to try to, as a stepping stone, to kind of either stepping down or trying to step back up in their career. So they've got some things going on. They have a ton of issues, but it's a team that's not offensively. They can put things together, I think. But yeah, I'm with you on that, Charlotte. How about this? What do you think about the under here? Because I think I can see this game playing out to like a 2017 type game. A lower one score, type game where they kind of cover and still the game goes under here. I mean, Charlotte gets the cover. So I like the Charlotte look. I haven't made an official play here, but I heavily lean towards the under here. I think if I get there, it'll probably be with the under because of Charlotte's defense and what they present. And then, that it's a scary number too, because you're not getting a ton of points, but I get that, I get that too with the way Charlotte plays their games and the way FSU kind of goes about their business offensively. So I think it's going to be a tight game, and I like the under here. You can make that official for me. I'll be on the under 41.
Let's get that under. What's kept me off of the under is just that we've watched the last two games for Charlotte, and in the last two games for Charlotte, 31 points combined have been scored. And it's just been so low scoring. And that for me to expect
that ready for an operation, a high scoring type game.
Well, just for me to expect that to happen a third time that's where I kind of get burnt. But the Florida Atlantic team total under would correlate for me with the way I see this game going. It's not that I don't like the under. It's just for whatever reason, when two extremely low scoring games go back to back and I expect it to continue, it just doesn't always work that way. But it makes perfect sense, the under here.
Well, I think I see a 22.5 and 23.5. So, but the under 23.5 is juiced pretty heavily.
Bavard has already moved this to 40.5. Pinnacle's hanging the 41 juiced, so they're close to a 40.5. But we can get this for you without juice. Different spots here. We have a 41 at -108 over at Heritage. So Ragoo is on the under 41 -108 over at Heritage. And so then for me, I'm going to look at FAU team total under to add to my action. But my action right now is on Charlotte +4 at -110. We move on to Big Ragoo's best bets here, and then I'll close up this segment with one more of mine. Let's get into it. 12 p.m. Eastern, Florida State Seminoles 7-0, 5-0 in the ACC at the Wake Forest Demon Deacons 4-3, 1-3 in the ACC. We're in Winston-Salem for this one. Let's get into the line history here for this big game. It pops off 12 p.m. Eastern action. First off, this total is sitting here at 51.5. It opened up at 53. So we have a 1.5 point drop on this one. Let's get into the spread here. The spread in this one, we have it at 20.5. Florida State -20.5. This opened up at 20. So it's moved a half point in FSU's direction. It got up to 21, but it's right back at 20.5. Razor Sharp, thank you for rolling with us, my man. Have a giant day today. So take a look at the cash flow here for Florida State, Wake Forest, and see what we are dealing with. Get there. Here we go. On the spread, you have 40% of the tickets on Wake and 50% of the cash. And from a total perspective, you have 45% of tickets, 65% of cash on the under. Florida State hits the road looking to continue their perfect season. They come off three straight home games and saw them win each one with ease. Started with a 39-17 win over Virginia Tech, before a 41-3 win over Syracuse. Last week, we saw them defeat Duke 38-20 as 14-point favorites. Now, that game changed drastically with an injury, and we'll talk about that when we talk about the Duke game. But here, Wake Forest comes in after snapping their 3-game losing streak with a 21-17 win at home over Pittsburgh as 3-point dogs. It was a funny game. They were outgained 414-323, and they lost the turnover battle 2-0. Somehow, they got the victory. Also, and this isn't as important, obviously, because it was in the days when Sam Hartman was quarterback, but they've won 3 straight against Florida State. And I don't know how they're going to do that here. Now, they have a good defense, allowing 22.1 points per game. It's pretty good. Wake Forest hasn't lost at home by more than 14 points all year. Florida State, and I would love you to touch on this, Doc, has had 2 early, meaning 12 p.m. Eastern kickoff games on the road this season, and they didn't look good in either.
Boston College, yeah.
Take it away, Doc. Florida State Seminoles, Wake Forest Demon Deacons, Big Ragoo's first best bet of the week.
If there's one team that cost me money against FSU when I was betting them, when I was on the FSU side, it's always been Wake Forest. And that we know they don't have Hartman no more, obviously. They've got a carousel of quarterbacks that they're trying to go back and forth between. I know, what was the starter's name? He was the kid that got hurt. He might be back today, but either way, you know, they've had struggle at the quarterback positions. They've had, you know, some other issues going on, trying to come away with some W's. But last year when they played FSU, when FSU had a stretch of 3 games, they had to play Clemson, NC State, and Wake Forest. And I said, if they win 2 of those games, you know, they'll be a playoff contender. Well, they lost them all, which they should have beat. The only team that really they lost the NC State game, which they should have won. They lost the Clemson game, which they should have won. But they played Wake Forest, and Wake Forest kicked the shit out of them. So they got a little revenge on their mind. After that big game last week, you know, like I say, we'll touch on the Duke side. You know, they held the quarterback down. You know, he didn't. Leonard didn't have a lot going on. The run game was fantastic early on. I worry about Florida State coming out of the gates a little bit slow here. I think this has always been a game that they played, and I'm not much for going back. And I look at the 1-8, and you know all the different numbers. You know, history presents itself, but I'm more in tune with the coaching angles of current coaches and of course players and coaching styles of what we have here. But there is some history here with Wake's success against FSU. That there is, but I think the game plan for this game for FSU is not necessarily to go out and you know, open up the offense really, really strong. I think this is one, you know, even when Florida State has struggled, it's been the defenses that's kept them in the games, and then the offense takes off a little bit later. I see that happening today on this, or not today, Saturday, on this game too. You know, Florida State, they're 7-0, like you said. They're 5-2 ATS. And then usually when they cover a game, it goes over the total here. So I don't think they're going to cover this number. I really don't. But I do like the under here a lot better than I like the side, because I think defensively they're going to go on down and shut Wake down, and I think they're going to do enough to win the game. Can they cover the 20-21? Yeah, they can do it, but I still think the game has a good look to the under here. But I would push back on. I lean Wake with the points, but I definitely like the under 51. I already bet this game at 51.5. I think there's like 70% of the money is on the under, but like 40-something% of the tickets is on the over. I mean, excuse me, 44% of the tickets on the under, but like close to 70% of the money's on the under here. So I'm going to ride with the sharps on this side. I think the under is a play here. I think Florida State wins convincingly, but they don't have to do a lot to win this game. and they had the big game last week over the hump. Now they kind of line things up for the rest of the season. With North Carolina, they're going to have to deal with them. Of course, Miami, and then then it's on to the playoffs for them. But yeah, they're not going to lose this game, but I don't think they cover. But I like the under better. So put me on the under. I'm becoming Noli knows here with the unders under 51.5. Florida State, or whatever you get me, 50.
It's available,
51.
yeah, under 51.5, available -113 at Pinnacle. My numbers are a little different, using Action Network. We're always going to get different numbers.
Yeah, what do you show for action on the?
71% of the tickets on the under and 65% of the cash.
Well, you still got bigger tickets. Okay.
So there we go. That's
Well,
on.
that's when I bet it. It might have changed since then, so I haven't looked at it today.
There you go. We've got it locked in. Big Ragoo's first spot on the board here. Florida State, Seminoles, Wake Forest, Demon Deacons.
If that, Jimmy, I'm sorry.
-113.
113. Okay.
If Florida State is sleepy at these 12 p.m. games for whatever reason on the road, and we know that Wake Forest defense is what's kind of kept them involved. I know they're just 1-3 in conference, but then the under is something that makes sense here.
We know Florida State's got weapons all over the field, and just Jordan on a dime, he can flip a switch and take over a game, but I don't think Travis, like I say, he'll run the offense and Fuller a scheme on defense. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be a lower scoring game here.
Let's move on to the next spot on the board here for Big Ragoo. 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Pittsburgh Panthers 2-5 at Notre Dame Fighting Irish 6-2. We're at Notre Dame Stadium. 51 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 8 miles per hour. Let's get into the line history here for this one. We'll start with this total. This total has dropped. It opened up at Pinnacle at 46.5. It's now at 44.5. So we have a 2-point drop, and it is juiced to the under as well. So we'll start there with the total. Let's get into the spread then here for this spot at 3:30 p.m. We're sitting with another almost identical spread here at 20.5 for Notre Dame. Difference here is they opened up at 19. Now, the first thing was it dropped to 18.5. The first move was towards the Panthers, but then it's come back on Notre Dame. So we have a move towards Notre Dame, and we have a move towards the under. Let's get into it here at 3:30 and see where the cash lies on this one. We have 42% of the tickets and 71% of the cash on that under. Looks like sharp action on the under. It's dropped as well. And then we have 65% of the tickets and 76% of cash on Notre Dame. Wine Time Sports moved on the under 45 at -110. Primetime 99 has the World Series ticket alive for the Snakes. Man, that's exciting. Nice job. So here we go. Pittsburgh's lost 5 of 6 against FBS competition this year. They couldn't follow up that surprise 38-21 win at home over then number 14 ranked Louisville as 7-point dogs. We're going to talk about that spot as well further into this card. They were outgained 430-288, but pulled out the double-digit win. They followed that up with a 21-17 loss at Wake Forest last week as 3-point favorites. Notre Dame comes in off a big 48-20 win at home over USC as 3-point favorites. Sam Hartman looks very good. 18 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. And Notre Dame has been covering against ACC teams. They have covered 10 of their last 11 against opponents from the ACC. Take it away for us here, Doc. Pittsburgh, Notre Dame.
It's an interesting matchup. We know it's going to be a struggle for Pittsburgh to put a ton of points up against Notre Dame here. And obviously with the big number too, and underlook type game, very similar look to the game we just talked about it, right? But Notre Dame offensively, very solid ball club. What they do. We know what Notre Dame is all about and what they accomplish on the field with Freeman and his defense, and then Hartman. When he gets rolling, he's going to be hard to stop too. So they got it going on both sides of the ball. But the history here, Pittsburgh, I think the last 4 they're like 3-0-1 against the number with this, and their last 4 3-0-1, and but the Irish, they're tough, man. I don't want to go up against them. I think there's a little angle here though that to come in the big play, and I've had some luck when I've looked at these low team totals, and you get another one here with Pittsburgh here. I think it's sitting at 9. I could see them putting 10 points in this game. It's a lower total. Does Notre Dame shut them down completely? I don't think so. I don't think they blank them. I think if we go back, let me look at some history on this matchup here with the Notre Dame, and let's see the last few times they played. So yeah, they got blank last year. The last time they played last year, they got beat 45-3, and then a year or two before that, they lost 40-19. And then it seems like they're playing like every other year, basically. But this is not one of Pittsburgh's better offensive teams this year either, by the way. So, but I think they're good enough to put the doubles up here, to get them over that 9. I was looking for like a cheap play, with a low total, and this was the one I came up with. So I got Pittsburgh over 9 points, team total. Are you muted?
Thank you. Sorry, there's some noise here outside. It's a very interesting look, very, very interesting look, which makes a ton of sense. I'm just going to grab it here over. Oh, wow. I got much higher here. Got this, but it's 13.5, but it's heavily juiced to the under, and they're not giving options. Where do you have a 9 right now?
Let's see.
Let's get this.
Let me pull it back up, Jimmy. I'm sorry, buddy.
Oh, it's all good. All good. See what we're going to be offered here.
Mine's moved to 10.5 now. So.
Wow, look at that. The over 9.5 is minus 230 here at 365.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Anyways, I'm showing 10.5 and 11s now. 11, so
nice job.
I'll still stay with it. I'll go. I got DraftKings got 10.5. If you can beat that,
no,
I'll still go with the 10.5.
And what's the juice?
I'm not happy about it, but I'll do it.
What's the juice?
I capped it that way, so I gotta stay with it. I bet at 9 earlier, so it's
what a move getting it at 9. My goodness, you crushed the line move. What is the juice right now at 10.5?
It's let's see, it's minus 115.
Minus 1. What a job! Can you imagine beating a market move quite like that? Right now, that 9.5 is minus 230. And he got it a regular at 9. Great job. Panthers team total over for Ragoo. Let's move on to the next spot on the board. 3:30 p.m. Eastern. The number 20 ranked Duke Blue Devils, 5-2, 2-1 in the ACC. At the now number 18 ranked Louisville Cardinals, 6-1, 3-1 in the ACC. Cardinal Stadium in Louisville, Kentucky. 69 Fahrenheit, cloudy here. In Louisville. It's raining earlier. It's supposed to stop raining for this. Let's get into the line history here for this one. Here, sorry, probably should have had this set up. We're sitting here with Louisville as 4-point favorites. 4-point favorites, and there's been no movement. They opened up at minus 108. At first, about 8 hours into it, it moved to minus 113, but it's come back to minus 110. So it's minus 4 at minus 110. Let's get over to the total then for this one. And we have it sitting at 46. 46 opened up at 47. It's dropped a point to 46. Let's get into the cash flow then for this one. We have on the side 55% of the tickets and 59% of the cash on Louisville. Again, we've had no movement on it. And from a total perspective, 25% of the tickets on the under, but 75% of the cash. So sharp move on that under. Duke comes in off its second loss in 3 games, 38-20 at Florida State as 14-point dogs. And the biggest question for this one is Riley Leonard. He left in the third quarter of his first game back from a high ankle sprain last week, and they fell apart. The Blue Devils offense just completely fell apart. So he's day-to-day with this ankle injury, and this is a big key to the script here. Louisville comes in off their bye week, an angry group. Last seen suffering their first loss of the season, 38-21 at Pittsburgh, a 7-point favorites. Now, the ACC championship game is still within reach, but that was a costly loss. Take it away for us here, Doc. Duke, Louisville at Cardinal Stadium.
This is all about a Louisville spot for me, guys, right here. Like you said, coming off that loss of Pittsburgh, what we just talked about, and then them getting beat up by Florida State. We'll see if they pick themselves off the ground here and they're sitting 6-1. Louisville is. They're in a good spot. I mean, as far as ATS goes, I think they're 3-4 in the year. They're 3-1 in conference. So this is a big game. Not so much for the ACC championship because we know FSU is going to put it in cruise control. But Louisville's been one of those early ACC teams that's racked up a lot of quality wins, and they got a good defense. Like we talked about Notre Dame's defense, and Duke playing another tough spot here, another good defense. I think they're averaging right around 2 takeaways a game. They're like top 25 and third downs. They've got the number 1 home field advantage, college rankings. They top out the charts at number 1 for home field and FBS. There's a lot of good quality stuff here, and we know what Duke does. Duke does a lot of things well, but the question marks with Leonard and how solid these guys are, on defense, all around and offensively, I think they can match up pretty good with Duke, but what's going to happen Duke offensively, with Leonard is going to be the big question, because if they go with the freshman, they're going to be in big trouble here. So that's the question mark. So I capped it, even though I capped it like if Leonard plays, he's not going to be 100% in my book. All it's going to take is one little nick for him to get dinged up. But, Louisville's numbers are strong enough here to, they're favored by 4. I don't think it's one of these games where you look at a team, certain teams pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and move forward. More times than not in college, that doesn't happen. We've seen it with USC last week. We've seen it over and over again. I think this is another one of those spots here. So I think I'm going to be on Louisville. Even my numbers line up with Duke, and a lot of that's, correlated through what's been going on throughout the season. But this is when I pumped the brakes on my numbers, and I said, you know what? Put me on Louisville. I'll lay the 4 here.
Louisville -4. Now, Riley Leonard wanted to come back in that Florida State game.
Yeah, I know.
He was trying to come back in, so he's going to try to play here, but he didn't look that good in the game when he was in, and you are absolutely right with the idea that
I mean, his QBR numbers weren't great. I mean, the game flipped the switch because that's how bad the backup was. Riley they were able to run the ball effectively early on against FSU, but in the third quarter, when things went south for them, it was just a matter of time before they took over the game. But that exasperated the whole situation. I think Louisville is good enough here. That's a quality football team. I like what they got going on there, and they're coached up well. A lot of good athletes on that squad.
And they're an angry group sitting there.
Angry, yeah, and they're coming off the bye with the loss. So,
that's sitting there in that 2 weeks of pain.
Right.
Yeah, no, I
that's my favorite play of the games I'm giving you today.
Louisville -4, the favorite play of Big Ragoo's best bets. Let's roll on to the next spot on the board. 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Iowa State Cyclones 4-3, 3-1 in the Big 12 at Baylor Bears 3-4, 2-2 in the Big 12. Let's get into the line history here for this one. We have Baylor as very short dog here. The crazy thing about this spot was that they opened up as favorites. So we've had a flip, and it's not just a small flip. Baylor opened at -2 at Pinnacle, and 47 minutes later, they were +1.5. And that's so somebody came in and bet, Iowa State at that plus line huge. Well, it couldn't be too huge because, they have limits on it, but someone that they respected and flipped the script immediately. Went to -1.5, went to -2. Now it's -2.5. And that -2.5 is juiced to -113. So as a book, Pinnacle is sitting here and they rarely show their hand. They're begging, it feels like, for Baylor cash. Let's get into the total here for this one. Again, this game pops off at 3:30. We have it sitting at 47.5, and it opened up at 47. So we have a half-point move towards the over. And let's get into the cash flow for this one. We have, look at this, man. So there's only 3,159 tickets in. Rarely do you see a +2 go to -2.5 unless there's a player personnel injury issue. 98% of the tickets and 98% of the cash is on Iowa State. And the books are doing whatever they can to get some Baylor money to come in. Rarely we see this. From a total side of things, we get no information. Nothing here for whatever reason. So Iowa State comes in off of its bye week. Both teams come in off recently playing Cincinnati. Iowa State won its second straight game 30-10 at Cincinnati before their bye week. They were 4-point favorites in that spot. Or excuse me, they're 4-point dogs. What am I saying? They were 4-point dogs in that spot. They held Cincy to just 214 yards. Baylor comes in off just squeaking past Cincinnati on the road last week, 32-29 as 2.5-point dogs. We're in Waco, Texas for this one. Ragoo, take it away. Cyclones, Bears, and Big 12 action.
Big market move in this game, without a doubt. I know, the thing with the Baylor's been zigzagging since they took the first. They lost to Texas State early on, right? Then they lost to Utah, and then they beat they had a cupcake with the Long Island. Not even worth talking about. Texas, they lost and they beat UCF in a thriller. And then Texas Tech, they lost and they come back and they beat Cincinnati. So this team's been zigzagging, after the first couple. Iowa State, they do what they do under Campbell. I'm surprised Campbell is still coaching there. He's a good coach for the program. They love him there. And Ames, they're not one of my favorite teams to back because they always seem to play in these close games. No matter what, especially when they're in these conference games and they get these knuckle drag type football games. But this year they've been a little bit different though. They got shelled by Oklahoma. They won their last two against a good TCU squad, and then the same Cincinnati team. Convincing when they're 30-10. I'm going to push back on this one a little bit. I know. Like you said, Pinnacle's begging for some money to come their way. I think they've kind of turned the corner a little bit, though. I think this is a game where it's not going to benefit Iowa to be involved in a higher scored game. Normally, I would say that for their squad, but I think they're going to have to match up with Baylor here. I think there's going to be points here. I lean over a little bit, even though it's a kind of a lower. They got it pegged at 47 or actually 47.5. So I kind of lean towards the under a little bit here, but I think it's going to be a tighter game. But my numbers have Baylor covering by 4 points here, so I'm going to go against the market. I'm going to push back a little bit. I think Baylor comes out with the win, even though they've shown some vulnerability. But I think they continue that same pattern here, and I'm going to push against the Sharps. I'm going to push against the public, whoever the hell's on them. I'm going to take Baylor on a money line play here.
On a money line play as well. Wow. Okay, yeah. Let's see what we can get you because we could also get you a +3 in this game now. So it's,
double up. I'm going to double up on this, even though it's not my favorite game. I don't like doubling up, but I'm going to double up on this one. I'm going to just take the insurance because I know, like I said, in past, not this year so much, but I know Campbell's played some tight games. When it's come up like when they play like Baylor's and they play the West Virginias of the world, they play tight. They didn't play tight against Cincinnati or TCU. They won those games convincingly, but I think they're getting a little too much love right now off of those games as dogs, as outright winners. So they made him the favorite. It's a lot of steam money. I think we pumped the brakes on that. I think it's too many people, too much love is given to Iowa State here. And I think Baylor comes away with the W. So, you know what? Don't give me the 3. Just give me the money line. I don't want to double up. Just give me the money line.
Baylor +120. It's +115 over at Bookmaker. Thank you, Billy Friedrich. And +120 available here. BT says it's our homecoming, but it doesn't matter. My Bears are junior varsity. But Andre says wrong team favorite.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Wrong team. Exact. I was going to use those exact words. Wrong team favorite.
Billy Frieder says Iowa State going to shut down the Bears passing game. He likes Iowa State laying anything under a touchdown. So we have both sides of the map because Wine Time Sports is with you on Baylor plus 115. All right, Baylor plus 120 available right now at Bet Online. Great to see you, Jacqueline. Let's move on to the final spot for the Big Ragoo, and that's over in Brooks Stadium, South Carolina, in Conway. Marshall Thundering Herd 4-3, 1-2 in the Sun Belt at the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers here in Sunbelt action. Let's get into the line history. And of course, the big story for this one is Grayson McCall. So he is hurt at this point. So we'll talk it. We'll talk it all out and see what the thoughts are and look at the line history and then make decisions whether we think the market's telling us that there's a chance that Grayson could be back in the lineup. This one starts at 6 p.m. Eastern, and we have Coastal Carolina sitting as 4-point dogs. 4-point dogs. They opened up at plus 3.5 and quickly moved to 4.5. That was deemed too much, dropped back down to 4 where it has stayed. And right now, the -4 for Marshall is juiced. Let's get into the total here for this one. And we have, here we go. We have the sitting at 45. It opened up at 48, dropped down to 45, which is where we are right now, slightly juiced to the under. Get into the cash flow there. Elliot V in the house. What up, Elliot? 6 p.m. action here. We have 67% of the tickets, 70% of cash on the under. Market moving in that direction. And then we have 35% of the tickets, but 53% of the cash on the Thundering Herd. Wine Time is on Marshall -4. Says this Coastal team isn't that good, and if Gray doesn't start, their offense is going to be bad. Marshall comes in off its third straight loss, 20-9 at home to James Madison's 5-point favorites. And we know what James Madison's doing this year. It's pretty special. Coastal Carolina comes in off its second straight win, 27-17 at Arkansas State as 8.5-point favorites. And now we have Grayson McCall. So he took a huge hit against Arkansas State. He was carted off the field, but he's doing fine. Overnight stay at the hospital. And we don't know. I mean, the market's telling us he's not going to be there. The market telling us that backup quarterback Jarrett Guest will be under center. And we have seen him. We saw him in last season's bowl game that lost East Carolina. So, this isn't just a complete unknown. Take it away for us here, Doc. Marshall Thundering Herd at Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, that's the caveat for this game is, Grayson playing in the game. I mean, he's the X factor for me. He's the guy that makes that machine go. We've seen Marshall. Marshall has been a team that always stymied me over the years, and it might stymie me again here. But I know it's supposed to be an official play for me on the show. But I'm going to put the asterisk by this one here, guys. If we get no McCall, then it's going to be a game time bet for me. But I'm going to give it the play on the show because it is what it is. So. I'm going to assume, with the hit and, he did get dinged up in that Arkansas State game. But if he goes, I'm going to make an official play. I'll put out the tweet, for that one. But I think it's going to be a lower scoring game too. I think there's going to be points. Maybe. Let me see what my numbers. My numbers have me about 3 or 4 points better on the total. So yeah, I'll definitely be on the under on this one. So, but then I'm going to make that an official play here, the under on this spot here. But if McCall goes, I'll probably come back with taking them as an underdog too at the +3 to make that official. But for show purposes today, with the question marks with him, I like the under on the side here. I think even though both teams can score with the question mark him being gone, I'm gonna be on the under here for the show purposes.
Let's lock in the under for Ragoo is under 45. Under 45 -108, and that is over at Heritage. So Ragoo,
what's the team total? What do you got for a team total right now on both of these squads?
I'm pull this up over at Pinnacle. So let's get move this over here. Team totals. This game pops off at 6. We have Marshall at 26.5, juiced heavily to the under, and very heavily juiced to the under. We have the 21.5 for Coastal Carolina, minus 138 to the under there.
Yeah, 21.5 Coastal. And Marshall's 27 and change, you said?
26.5.
What's it juiced to?
It's plus 105 to the over, minus 122 to the under.
Give me the Marshall under.
Marshall under 26.5. So Ragoo's on the under 45.
Matter of fact, change my play to the Marshall under 26.5 and then take me off the full game under. Put the Marshall under 26.5.
Locked in. Under 26.5 at minus 118. We have one more best bet here before we move on to NBA with Dutch Boy Fresh. We have Big Ragoo here for NCAA football best bets, and I get to drop mine here. 8 p.m. Eastern, we head over to the Pac-12. Washington State Cougars 4-3, 1-3 in conference. Arizona State Sun Devils 1-6, 0-4 in conference. We're at Mountain America Stadium, Tempe, Arizona. Let's get into the line history here for this one. This total, start there. This total sitting at 51.5, and that's where it opened. So we've had no movement on this total that's been out for 3 days. Let's get into the spread then for this one. Move over here. And for the point spread, we are sitting at 6. Well, it's actually now at 5.5. I bet this at 6. It's at 5.5. The first move was towards Washington State. It was a half-point move. It happened about 12 hours after the line came out. And then about 32 hours after that, it moved a full point towards Arizona State, which is where it is right now, 5.5. Pinnacle's the lone book at 5.5. The other books are at 6. Wine Time Sports says what happened to Cam Ward. Says this guy looks like the best player in college football the first 4 weeks. Well, he looked pretty good in his last start, but let's go over the cash flow here for this one. We have Arizona State getting hammered right now. Now, there's only 2,292 tickets in, but they're getting hammered. 88% of the tickets and 92% of the cash. That makes me nervous. And then 75% tickets, 80% cash is on the over. Washington State comes in off a tough 38-24 loss at Oregon as 19.5-point dogs. Both teams come off very, very tough road losses where they were probably looked past by the opponent and both covered in tough spots. So Washington State comes in off the tough 38-24 loss to Oregon's 19 points. Dogs. And Cameron Ward looked good. He looked really good. And he was coming off that horrific situation at home versus Arizona when they got absolutely destroyed. Like 44-6, I think was the score there. But he went 34-48, 438 yards and touchdown, and it was a nice bounce back spot for him. On Arizona State, they have yet to beat FBS competition this year. But that was an impressive 15-7 loss at Washington as 28-point dogs. And I believe in Trenton Bourguet. I believe in him. So he looked – now he's throwing these very short passes, but he's throwing a ton of them. So they're able to move the clock and keep it down. But I believe in them here at Mountain American Stadium. We saw them last at Mountain American Stadium in a 27-24 loss to Colorado as 3-point dogs, but they outgained Colorado 392 to 295. It was just that the elite players on the field stepped up for Colorado when it mattered most. Bourguet against Washington, 26 of 47, 196 yards. He did throw a pick. I believe in Arizona State, and I think that 6 points is too many. Wine Time says big letdown spot for Arizona State, it seems. Well, then I think this is a big letdown spot for Washington State as well, because that was very impressive what they did at Oregon. And it was the same, not holding Washington to 15 points, but I believe that a team that's not won in the Pac-12, a team that's going home can, and I love fading teams who are playing back-to-back road games. And Washington State threw everything at Oregon. They put all of their energy to battle Oregon. And now they have to play the worst team in the Pac-12. I think it's an uncomfortable spot for Washington State. And that's why I moved on Arizona State +6. Take it away for us here, Doc. The final spot on the board, little Pac-12 action. Take it away.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at an Arizona team and a home and away slot that they're -14. On the point differential. They're scoring Washington State scoring like 30 on average, where let's say Arizona's scoring like 16. I think we'll see a ton of offense yards here, whether it equates to score. What you think? If you had a lean, give me a lean on the total. What do you think about that? Would you say over or under? It doesn't equate to a lot of points, but a lot of yards. So it's because they're playing a tougher competition, lower tier teams here. But I don't know. 7 points seems like a pretty decent number, I would think. To get to. I think they're a touchdown better is what I'm saying. The 5.5. I would say anything to 7. I would definitely lean Washington State's way here. I think they have the better passing game. I think Arizona State. If I had to see defensively, I would give them the slight edge on the defensive side of the board. But offensively speaking, all day and night with Washington State here. I think that gets them over the hump, though. I think it should be a W for them. It's not an official play for me, but I definitely lean Washington State by a touchdown.
Makes me nervous. Cam Raphael said Washington didn't give everything. They were down 21 the whole game. So the Arizona State gave everything. They were up the whole game on the road and lost on a pick 6. I've loved what I've seen from Arizona State in these last 2 games. I've loved it. And now they have a legitimate chance.
I mean, the defense steps up. That's where it's at for Arizona. They're going to have to hold it down defensively. Offensively, what's their offensive output the last 3 games? You said.
Well, they put up 24 at home versus Colorado, and then of course they only put up 7 at Washington.
Yeah, those are two different. Those are opposite ends of the spectrum defensively. What they faced on those 2 games there, but.
Well, Cam Raphael and Doc on Washington State. No one here in the chat on Arizona State, but me. And
you're a lone wolf.
I like these home dogs at this number very much. I like that Pinnacle's tipped its hand going through that 6. That's important to me. We have the NFL database from Troy Torrance, and those games that go through the 6 and the 5.5 are cashing at an alarming rate. So I like this. I like the spot. I think Arizona State can gain confidence.
They've lost their last 3: UCLA, Arizona, and Oregon. Handily on Washington, the Arizona game, and then one score against UCLA. But UCLA's defense is good too. They're really good. Oregon, yeah, that's not a bad effort by them getting 20 last out. So, but now they're favorites. So, like you said, so I don't hate your play. I like to say I lean that way, but.
And for the total, I guess I would. If you like Washington State, then you would lean to the over, and if you like Arizona State, then you would lean to the under.
Yeah, I'd go that way. Yeah.
All right, there is our best bets.